Everyone. I hope everyone's day is off to a great start. I'm just going to give it a minute or so here and then we'll get started. Hello there. All right, we are just going to give it one more minute here and then we'll kick things off, but very excited to be chatting with you all today. Going to be a solo episode, if you will. So excited for kind of our mid-year check-in and share all about what's been going on in the space and what's to come. All right. Well, we can kick things off. Welcome to the FYI by Find Your Influence. My name is Chelsea Goodson. I'm the head of creator economy here at Find Your Influence, and I'm really excited to be here with you today. We're going to be jumping into today's topic, which is our mid-year check-in. We're already more than halfway through the year, and it's been a big one already. Lots of movements and shifts within our industry, and I'm really excited to talk through some relevant topics of it all. I would encourage you because this is a solo episode, so I've got some points that I'll walk through, but if you have any questions, comments, anything like that, the Q&A is open. I would encourage you to drop anything in there so that we can have a bit more of an open conversation, if you will. A couple of housekeeping items. All cameras are off, the microphones are muted, so you don't have to worry about that. And then, like I mentioned, our Q&A is open, and then we would love for you to leave your thoughts there, questions, anything like that for us to walk through today. All right. Well, to kick things off, I've already kind of mentioned it, but there have been some big shifts within the space this year, and I kind of wanted to walk through a few of those. One being that more brands are moving away from those one-off deals and really investing in creator-led brand building, long-term ambassadorships, and are really tapping creators for more of that campaign planning. It's been a really interesting pivot to see, and we love to see our creators come more into action. But it's just really exciting that our brands are moving to a place of where they're considering the creators at the forefront rather than kind of toward the end of the funnel. When they have everything already built out and are ready to move on the content, they are now starting to bring them in earlier to work with them to create the ideas, to really come up with a concept so that it's not only authentic to the brand, but it's always also very authentic to the creator and what they see that is happening in the space or in their industry. Whether they're more health related, more related, more lifestyle, fashion, whatever it may be. So there's many other shifts as well, but those are a few of them that I feel like have been really top of the chart this year thus far, and I'm sure we'll be seeing more movements within the latter half of the year as well. So speaking of those long-term partnerships and kind of how brands are approaching them a bit differently this year. We've already been seeing brands prioritize creators who really align with their values. I mean, that's not something new, but it's something that I think we're definitely seeing at the forefront of any brand who's bringing a creator on to work with them. They want to make sure that they as a person are really aligning with them, not just their audience, but which has previously been, something very important to any brand who's working with a creator, because at the end of the day, they're creating content for their audience and that's who they're targeting. We're seeing really multi-quarter contracts. So, that, like I mentioned, the more brand ambassador partnerships, we're really seeing a joint connection within the shared KPI. So we're making sure that that's an important conversation to be had. I know within my personal work, I've been seeing a lot of views engagement. So, with Reels, TikTok, I think there's a lot of opportunity there to work with a creator to create content that really aligns to the view goal that that brand may have. So it's, again, really honing in on what those KPIs are and making sure that it's a attainable action for both the brand and the creator. And then even co-created products. I mean, we're seeing more and more partnerships. I mean, it's been happening for years now, but I think as the year has gone on, we've seen more things come up, whether it's a matcha collab or a smoothie collab or even just a brand kind of curating a few looks and styles or a lookbook, if you will, to a fashion influencer. They're really trying to create these products and collections that are geared toward the influencer, so they're even more appealing to them and their audience. So yeah, again, if you have any thoughts or questions, feel free to jump them in the chat. But appreciate everyone as we walk through this. Again, my first solo webinar, but it's certainly going to be a fun one. So I thought we could talk next about, which industries are really seeing the most growth within creator collaborations this year. So, we've always seen the fashion, the lifestyle, the food, the travel, but I really feel confident in saying that we're seeing much more work being done within healthcare, financial services, B2B tech is also big. They're really embracing influencer marketing. And also they're really turning all these categories are turning towards micro experts. So not, like I said, just the lifestyle creators to tell their story, but they're really niching down and finding that very specific creator who really meets their needs and can target exactly who they're looking for within their audience. And of course, the influencer as they are as well. I know here at FYI, we've had a lot of experience within the healthcare industry, financial services as well, and B2B. That's really where we got our start. So it's not surprising to see, but it's really nice to see that kind of pop up even more as really lifestyle, fashion, food, all of those things have been really at the forefront in the past. Um, so moving on then to, creator expectations, how they've evolved in 2025, both from the brands and from their audience as well. We all have a vision of what we expect from a creator, whether you're just like a follower or your brand kind of coming in and seeing them as a partner. More and more, we're really trying to make sure that that transparency is there. They're having a real seat at the table. I think that's really important. And of course, creators are always looking for more creative freedom, and I see brands aligning to that more than ever. They're really entrusting these creators to have the autonomy to choose and pick what suits them best, and that they know will really jive with their audience but also make sense for that brand or product that they're working for. They're really creating, again, the story, and it's not just an ad placement anymore. It's a true story that can integrate into who they are. I thought a fun example could be I listen to a lot of podcasts, but one in particular is called What We Said. It's from two creators, JC and Chelsea. And the ads that they do on their podcast are very integrated. You almost don't realize that they have moved into an ad placement outside of their storytelling because it integrates so well. I always am interested to hear their ads because I think they are spoken to in such a way that feels so authentic to them and also can really speak to an audience. I'm sure you've all heard the ads before that run on any given podcast. Sometimes they're very apparent and maybe might turn you away from checking out that product because maybe they feel a bit too aggressive, but these are so gentle in their way of coming from, a background of storytelling of what the product is, how they're using it in their day-to-day life, whatever it may be. And I think it's a really cool thing to listen to and watch. So if you're ever curious to hear some examples of really well-placed ads, I would definitely encourage you to check out the What We Said podcast. And again, I'll take a little pause here. I know we've had some more attendees join, but if you have any questions, we'd love for you to put them in the Q&A. This is more of an open conversation and again, a mid-year check-in. So we're talking about things that are going on within the space and what we've seen thus far in 2025. So moving right along, talking to, the type of content that has been best performing, this first half of the year. Like you mentioned, storytelling, but it continues to be the real breadwinner in the space. We're looking for raw, story-driven content. I'm sure we've seen there's a handful of creators who have been very vocal and open about their personal lives, whether that's in relationships, friendships, whatever it may be. They're bringing you through a journey and they're having multiple parts to what's happening. Sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's sad, sometimes it's just real life that's happening to them. But it's been really wonderful to see the growth that those creators have had. And then they were able to turn that growth into a full-time career within content creation. They're those, those storytelling folks who they come to the story with a like, come with me, or here's what happened, or watch until the end. Those kind of hooks, I think, are really important to share as a creator, not only to like let your audience know kind of what's coming up, but also if it's, featuring an ad, it's a good way to kind of keep your audience engaged. So again, there's been a lot of content that has performed very well this year, but I think the most we're seeing are continuing to be those really raw and open stories of what's happening in someone's life, whether it's tied into an ad or not. And then jumping to the idea of, creators being looped into campaign strategies, it feels like they're being looped in more than ever. And I think there's definitely still a balance. Like I mentioned before, I think there's been a real shift in having creators start earlier in the conversations of any brand creating a plan for any given campaign. There will always be, I think, brands that are a bit more focused on their personal creation of what that looks like in their vision versus working with someone else. But I do think as we continue over time, we're going to see that happen more and more. Um, right now we're really also leaning into data. I mentioned before, that working within the KPIs that a brand has set up is more than important than ever. I think brands and influencers are taking that very seriously. Again, really looking for a true partnership here. Gone are the years, I think, of just like those quick one-offs that maybe not might not feel the best and most authentic, but feel kind of right in the moment. I think brands are more than ever really trying to dial in on exactly who they want to work with, what the content looks like, and in turn working with creators that are really successful in doing just that. Um, so we've talked a lot about content already, but we haven't talked about platforms. So I know this year has been kind of a whirlwind for TikTok, and it sounds like it's going to continue just that. The ideas that we're hearing right now is that come September, TikTok will be launching a US based platform that will be similar to TikTok, but have its own algorithm and be a separate platform overall. That's really news within the past, 48 hours. So I'll be curious to see where that lends and kind of turns things throughout the rest of the year. But truthfully, even at that pace and with things that have happened in the past few months, TikTok is really remaining dominant. We see other channels that are utilizing similar methods like YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels are really continuing to hold strong. I don't find that surprising. And I'm sure we'll continue to see that. On the other side, I also think that YouTube videos are becoming as important as ever. I mean, YouTube has been around in the space for well over a decade now, and I just see some creators, especially those who, when TikTok was thought to be gone in the earlier part of the year, kind of move into that space. And I do think for those that have continued to stay consistent within that space are really going to benefit overall. Kind of like that idea of, creating content that's quick, snappy, and is kind of in and out and in a moment. And then also creating that content that's more long form and that has true SEO value, because at the end of the day, I think that's really what we're leaning on with YouTube. Google is pushing any individual who might be searching for something there. I always hear evergreen content is really great on YouTube, as is the other platforms as well. But I think it's important to recognize the differences and also realize what you're building when you are creating a more long form piece of content specifically on YouTube. We've already talked about this within our own blogs, our social media posts, but LinkedIn is, just blossoming within the space of content creators. We have a couple of favorite content creators here that we work with often that are very knowledgeable within the space of LinkedIn, are very active on there. And it's interesting because it's not always the B2B brands that are looking to them. It's really brands overall that are trying to be in that space. It's just trying to find the right way to have those conversations. I do think it's slightly different than having someone create a reel or a TikTok to talk about whatever your product may be. In this sense, the creator is tapping not only an audience who might be interested in their content, but also those within a professional workspace. And I think the adjustment that are needing to be made is very important, but one that can be done very easily. And I'm really hoping to see more content creators pushing toward LinkedIn, in the later half of the year. We've already talked about like trending in terms of, short form, some long form, and then live content too. I mean, we're still seeing a lot of TikTok lives. I think that's huge in the space, but also, any streaming platform, gaming, I think that's going to continue to be big. It just really, again, depends on the audience that you're trying to reach. Um, I kind of also wanted to know, overall with any of this that we're talking about, there is an element, of AI generated content coming, we're seeing it more and more every day. And whether it be something that we are consuming or we're hearing of others that we're close to are, whether it's someone saying, "Hey, did you see this video? Is it real?" Or "Did you see this post?" Or even if it's you yourself creating some kind of image or a graphic using AI. I mean, it's coming in different spurts, and I think it's really useful. But I think we're still trying to figure out how that really fits into our space within influencer marketing. Definitely on the platform side, I think it's done wonders for many platforms like ourselves who are able to kind of use that technology to create a bigger landscape and viewpoint of who our creators are and what they do. But I will be interested to see kind of how that continues later in the year. And then talking about creator-led trends. I mean, we all know that there's always going to be some type of aesthetic viewpoint, a challenge, a sound. But really, so far this year, I think we can all agree that earlier in the year we saw a lot of de-influencing. So in Q1, a lot of brands and creators were leaning into the idea of like de-influencing, not always in a sense of like purchasing a product, but also on a viewpoint, on a I don't know, something, that would maybe alter a person's view on anything that may come up. And I think it was a really interesting conversation to be had, especially for those brands who do sell products. I mean, most brands do, some are here for awareness, but it was really interesting to see brands play in that space. And then also how the creators were positioning it. So I think we're all very aware that a good chunk of the creator economy is pushing to some type of awareness of a product, a brand, whatever it may be. But to see this commentary happen was so interesting, and I'm sure it will be something that continues as the year goes on. Um, and then kind of looping into a bit of a different area, but in terms of influencer performance, I mean, there have been a lot of things that have surprised me already within 2025. But things that we're continuing to see, campaigns with creator whitelisted ads. We do a lot of whitelisting here at FYI, and ads are a big part of, I think, any creator campaign. So we've been seeing, I have a note here, 3 times higher click-through rates than standard brand ads. So that's a huge win for creators. And I think also a good reminder to brands to really lean in on that content that's being created and make sure that they're utilizing it for paid media efforts as well. And then also brands are, shifting that traditional media kind of because of it and more aggressively now. So, many brands are, I wouldn't say cutting traditional ad spend, but they're definitely making um, they're making kind of a switch in where they're putting their dollars nowadays, especially for product launches and any brand awareness. It's just about figuring out the best outcome for what they could do. And I think a lot of that is being put into the creator market. I know earlier this year we had the CEO of Unilever come in and say, "Hey, I'm going to make some big changes within the space. So I'm going to be putting a lot of dollars into the creator economy." And I think because of that, having an expert and a leader within such a large industry coming to the forefront and saying that really changed the viewpoint of many other brands out there who recognize, maybe if someone else is doing it, especially, such a big brand that, really sets precedent for the rest of us, that we should do the same. And then talking about benchmarks, I mean, I think engagement rates are really stabilizing. We're kind of seeing a kind of overall view and baseline for many of these. Um, And then completion rates on video content, I think have become like the new go-to metric. I mean, everyone wants to know how much of a video did your audience really watch. I think that's going to be an important KPI as we move more into the video area. I mean, again, TikTok, I think is reigning king still. And I think that's going to be a really important one is like how much of a video did someone fully see? I know we've always seen that within the AdWord space, especially, on Google and other areas, but I do see that continuing. And then talking about content. So, what type of content is really creating those true conversions and sales in 2025? I think that's what we're all trying to figure out. We're all trying to see, what type of content is going to suit the best. And like I mentioned before, anything that that story first framing and very clear social proof of like what's happening, I think is, doing really well. Before and afters, of course, everyone loves to see how something might change and evolve, whether it's you as a person or something that you're working on, whether it's your home, car, a fun project for you and your family, whatever it may be. I also think that's doing really well. Tutorials to go along with that. So teaching, I mean, social media is a great place for teaching space. I mean, we see this everywhere, whether it's a recipe, how to make a dalgona coffee, whatever it is. I think there's a lot of opportunities there for learning, and creators that are leaning into that space are getting more saves and shares than ever. And then also integrations, really converting across the wellness, beauty, and home categories. So we're seeing more of these like integrations happening. It's not only kind of one section, if you anymore, if you will. We're seeing a mold of things. One creator is not just, one idea. They're not just a beauty creator. They're not just a wellness creator, but there are many of these things. And I think because of it, it is allowing for them to work with more brands in different areas, have a wider audience because they're appealing to different areas. You may be semi interested in wellness, but you're really into beauty. So that's going to pull you to a creator, and then you're going to really engage, with the beauty content, and then you're going to also engage with the wellness content, even though it might not be something that you're fully invested in. It's still in front of you, and it's interesting. And if it's a favorite creator of yours, you're going to easily want to support them in that sense. And then I'm flying through this, so I'll just say that. Again, lots of fun things to chat through. But I also talked with our team here at FYI, and I wanted to hear from them. um, I have marked here notes from Team FYI. What kind of content that they're seeing that's really performing well thus far this year, and anything that we can kind of take into the latter half of the year. I know many of you, I'm sure, are Broadway musical fans. So one of our wonderful individuals on the team mentioned that she's seeing a lot of different people sharing their opinions in certain shows. I know Spring Awakening has been a really big trending audio. So, working within that space. I can speak personally to the idea of there are some creators that I follow now that I didn't recognize are in Broadway or have been in Broadway productions. And because of it, I'm getting more interested in that space. So we'll be curious to see where that goes. And then on kind of a totally separate offshoot, but we're having a bob summer, so a haircut. I think that is pushing a lot of individuals to think about their own hair and what they're doing with it. But it's been really interesting. There's a lot of trending audio going around for bobs, which is really fun to see, and the discourse around it. Again, something that is very visual and like personal to an individual, but can be very fun. And if you are a hair care brand, then I'm sure it's something you're really leaning into this year and is making a big impact just because that's kind of what is at the forefront for many individuals within that space, or those who might work in the hair care profession. I mean, we have a lot of content creators who are hairstylists themselves. We've been seeing it specifically online with the popular TV show, the housewife show that is focused on the Mormon community in Salt Lake. So again, very interesting to see. And then one note here, and I will admit, and I'm not as familiar with this, but have seen a little bit of it, The Tiny Chef. It was an animated show that was recently canceled, and I know a lot of people she mentioned are rallying behind it. So I think there are a lot of interesting pieces that we can take away from these different ideas that are doing well. I know the Tiny Chef is an animated character. They're creating something something that should be edible, but it's the same thing for what you can create in your kitchen. So, anyways, it's, taking all of these ideas to account. I think there are a lot of areas that we can continue to focus in 2025, and I'm sure there will be so many more. We will aim to do a end of the year check-in and see just how far we've come. Um, but that was everything that I had to walk through today. If there is any Q&As, please feel free to put it in the chat. Again, I know this is a bit of a different webinar, just having a solo one, but it is kind of fun to check in with you all and talk about what we've been seeing in the space and what's to come. We're, talking about what's, relevant and happening daily on all of our social media channels. We also have a Facebook group called the FYI by Find Your Influence, and there you can find daily articles on what's going on in the space. I know myself that is really important for me to stay up on and see kind of what's happening from brand activations to kind of who's up and coming. So we definitely encourage you to check that out. But with that, I mean, we've covered a lot today. This episode is going to be uploaded to our YouTube channel, so you can watch it later if you want to go back and kind of review what we talked about in terms of what has been happening thus far in 2025. But I appreciate you all so much of your time. You can find FYI on all social media platforms. We'd love to have you join over in, like I mentioned, on our Facebook group and then also on LinkedIn. I already talked about my favorite LinkedIn creators, so would love to connect there as well. And then we have a really exciting webinar that's coming up toward the end of this month with Bellwether Public Relations. They are a longtime client of ours, and we'll be talking about how they utilize influencer marketing for their clients within a variety of industries, including healthcare, education, and more. But thank you all so much for joining me. I will look forward to seeing you later this month and hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. Thank you. Bye.